Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I'm really excited because this is the first webinar we're having dedicated to onlineLCA. Namely, today we will focus on onlineLCA for Indian businesses. So we'll see how this tool can answer to the upcoming regulatory needs in India regarding sustainability. Before getting started, just a couple words about ourselves. My name is Chiara De Grandis. I'm a sustainability consultant and I also take care of communications at GreenDelta. GreenDelta is the developer of onlineLCA and also openLCA. Today with me is my colleague Friedrich. He's also a sustainability consultant and he has quite some experience with onlineLCA and he implemented some projects with it. And we also have Mohan, he's founder and technical lead of One Carbon Labs, which is the openLCA partner. So Mohan will provide with an overview of why onlineLCA can be useful for Indian businesses. So now let's take a look at the agenda. We'll start understanding what is onlineLCA, so why we decided to develop this tool as well. Then we'll deep dive into why onlineLCA again can be useful for Indian businesses. We'll have a practical showcase of the tool, so we'll see how it looks like, how it works. And we'll also have some testimonials. So we are going to see how we implemented some projects with onlineLCA. And of course, we are keeping enough time for a Q&A session. So on this note, you will find a Q&A section here in Teams and feel free to write your questions there. Okay, so let's get started with a couple words about us, about the developers of onlineLCA. So as I said, we are part of GreenDelta. GreenDelta was founded in 2004. We have projects and clients all around the world, and we can say we are quite experts in the LCA field. We are mostly known for openLCA, which is our open source and free software. openLCA is a desktop application, and it is now a well-established tool. So you may ask yourself, okay, why did you decide to create another tool to do LCAs if you already have openLCA? Because openLCA, I wouldn't say it is just for experts or that it is difficult to use, but of course you must have some kind of LCA knowledge in order to use it in the best way. But we realize, we understand that within companies there are different functions, people working in different sectors, and not all of them, of course, have some LCA knowledge. But we wanted to provide with a tool that in some way allowed these people to also interact with LCA models. So we asked ourselves, okay, how can we make LCA easy and accessible to these people as well? So this is why we created onlineLCA. In a nutshell, onlineLCA is a web-based LCA tool that allows indeed different people to connect and perform specific LCA calculations in line with pre-modeled LCAs. In this description, I think that we have the core really of this tool. First of all, is a web-based tool. On the opposite of openLCA, the fact that it is web-based, it allows more people indeed to work together on the same model at the same time. So it also allows for an easier collaboration, I would say. And another keyword, I think, is pre-modeled LCAs, meaning the LCA model doesn't have to be created from scratch inside onlineLCA, because again, it is meant for non-expert use. So the model is already created previously by an LCA expert so that the non-expert can then change just some parts of the model. So basically, what I can do with onlineLCA, first of all, it enables non-experts, again, to carry out LCAs, not only because the model has already been created before, but also because it really offers a user-friendly interface. It is really intuitive, and you're going to see that, of course, during the demonstration. It also ensures a compliant and consistent calculation with different standards. So you can not only carry out LCAs, but also, for example, EPDs, digital product passports, CBAM, etc. Also, it allows different user roles and access rights, Meaning, for example, if I am the administrator of onlineLCA, I can decide what the other users can see, what they can do. For example, I can decide my colleague A can only view a certain model, colleague B can only view another model, so I can really manage indeed the access rights. And also, onlineLCA can be tailored to a company's specific needs. And for us, this is very important because for all of our tools, both openLCA and onlineLCA, we want to allow a certain flexibility. So during the demonstration, you will see the basic version of onlineLCA, but keep in mind that we can work together with the company to develop, for example, other features and other visualization of the tool itself. Now, let's see what is the workflow with onlineLCA. As you can see, it is basically divided into two main parts. Okay, so we have the LCA expert work at the beginning, and then the visualization and interaction of the onlineLCA users then. So indeed, we start with the LCA expert that creates a model in openLCA. So here is where indeed we need some expertise. We have the creation of the whole model of the, let's say, the complicated model. This model is then uploaded to the collaboration server. The collaboration server, for those that maybe don't know about this, was first created to allow indeed collaboration of different openLCA users. In this case, it basically acts as a bridge between openLCA and onlineLCA. So indeed, we have the creation, then the model is in the collaboration server. The collaboration server is connected to onlineLCA, and this is how I can import the model from indeed the collaboration server to onlineLCA. Of course, what I see in onlineLCA is not the whole model, the same as in openLCA, otherwise it wouldn't make sense. I have a simplified version of the model. Simplified meaning it is easier to understand and to interact with the model, but the completeness of the model remains. It's just not visible to the onlineLCA user. So what the user can do in onlineLCA, he or she can perform mass calculations. Results can be inspected. I can modify parameters. I can do a comparison of different products. I can generate reports. I can do data collection. And as mentioned before, I can comply more easily with different standards. Now, I think it's really useful to go through the main questions that are usually asked about onlineLCA to recap a little what we are talking about. So first of all, again, what is onlineLCA, and so how can it benefit my organization? onlineLCA is a web-based tool where different people can interact with a pre-modeled LCA model, and where users are assigned different roles and have different privileges, okay? The way I can access onlineLCA is I need a license, so it is a licensed tool. Once I obtain the license, basically I will just have my instance of onlineLCA, my URL, my environment, call it as you want. I will receive a password basically with which I can access the tool. So from there it's pretty straightforward. How many people can access onlineLCA? There is not really a limit of the people that can access onlineLCA within the same organization. In case you want someone external to access your instance of onlineLCA, then that may be the case of a sublicense, but indeed, this is really a specific case. What is the level of personalization I can have with onlineLCA? As I said before, we want to remain flexible. We really want to create a tool that is tailored to your needs. So for example, we can rebrand the tool, we can modify the visualization of data, we can change the report. So we really are open to discussion with the company that is interested to the tool. Then, is onlineLCA secure? This is, of course, very important for companies. Of course, we want to keep your data safe. So while developing onlineLCA, we followed the guidelines of ISO 27001. And in case you want to know more, we also wrote a document dedicated to security in online LCA. You can find it in the link that you see below. And then can I use online LCA to calculate EPDs and PCF? So when we shared the form before this webinar, we saw that most of you are interested in LCAs in general, but some of you are also interested in EPDs and PCF. So short answer is yes. You can also use online LCA to do this type of studies. Okay, I think that's it for the first part. So I hope you got the idea of what online LCA is. Then we, of course, are going to see it more in detail later during the demonstration. So I will leave the floor to Mohan so he can really explain why online LCA can be a benefit for Indian businesses. You are on mute. Sorry, Mohan.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Kira, for sharing the insights on online LCA. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Mohan MS, openLCA partner in India region. So, in this section, we will briefly discuss how online LCA helps our Indian companies. India's manufacturing ecosystem is growing rapidly and becoming deeply integrated into global supply chains. With that growth comes increasing pressure to measure, manage, and report environmental data in a structured and a credible way. So, in particular, we are seeing challenges related to portfolio complexity, environmental compliances, requirements, and rapidly changing supply chains. The goal of this section is to translate the enterprise LCA framework behind online LCA into Indian business context. Let's quickly move forward. So, why online LCA in India? Let me start by summarizing five major drivers that make online LCA particularly relevant to India today. So the first one is Indian manufacturers often deal with portfolio manufacturing. That means they produce many product variants based on the similar designs. When the variants change frequently, it will be very difficult to update the manual LCA models every time. The second one is procurement and logistics. The suppliers may change, distance may vary, transportation may modes may shift depending on the market conditions. These changes also significantly affect the environmental impacts of the products. The third important driver is Indian companies increasingly serve global markets where customers request environmental information such as product carbon footprints, product environmental declarations. And the fourth driver is without automation, organization face higher risk and cost from repetitive LCA work whenever the product data changes. And the final important driver why we need online LCA in India is enterprise tools like online LCA allows to conduct mass calculations of the different product portfolios across the company. Together, these factors create a strong case for suitable LCA infrastructure. So the next one is portfolio challenge, variance and bill of material. One of the biggest challenges in Indian manufacturing is managing large number of product variant. Many companies operate product portfolios where dozens or even hundreds of variants have similar core design but slightly differ in materials, dimensions, and components. Along this side, bill of materials changes in the bill of materials happen frequently. Engineering teams need to update this material, substitute suppliers, and modify the product configurations. In industries such as automotive, component manufacturing, electronic assemblies, PCB manufacturing, textiles, there is a complexity. This complexity will be very high. From an LCA perspective, yeah, every change potentially affects the environmental impact results. Manually updating this calculations becomes time consuming and even error prone. What companies really need now is they need a way to automate the environmental impact calculations for new designs and product variation while maintaining the consistency and the origin of the original LCA model. So the next thing we'll discuss on procurement and logistics sensitivity. The major factor affecting the environmental impacts is procurement and logistics. Supply chain in India is highly dynamic in nature. Companies source materials from multiple suppliers across different states or even different countries. This means the transportation distances, delivery routes, and the logistics modes can change frequently. For example, a component may be sourced from one supplier today and from another tomorrow, or transported by road instead of railways, depending on the cost and availability. All these changes can significantly affect the overall carbon footprint of a product. Therefore, companies need tools that allow them to map a multi-layer supply chain environmental data and test alternative sourcing strategies. And the next important aspect is export compliance readiness. Uh, Many Indian suppliers supply to global market, especially to Europe. These markets increasingly require standard environmental data from their suppliers. For example, companies exporting construction products have to disclose the environmental product declaration based on EN 15804. Uh, and then other may need to align with ISO 14067 for the product carbon footprinting. And frequently, the customers are asking ESG questionnaire related to environmental data and the products and the supply chains. In additionally, policies such as CBAM, uh, carbon reporting frameworks, are increasingly expecting for transparent emission data. To respond all this effectively, companies need a system that generate consistent, standardized data sets rather than repetitive calculations every time upon a request. So let's see how governance and risk control can be tackled in the online LCA. When environmental data becomes important for customer and regulators, data governance becomes very critical. Organizations need to ensure the calculations are reliable and traceable. This is where enterprise tool introduce several important governance features. As Kiara told earlier, the first one is role-based user permissions allow different departments to access and use the system without modifying the underlying LCA model. There should be a transparent chronology of changes, meaning any updates to the parameter or data should be recorded frequently. Administrators need oversight across multiple departments and teams, ensuring the consistency across the project. And finally, these governance mechanisms help maintain data integrity across the repeated LCA cycles, which is essential when the results are used in external verification reporting. So let's see what you'll see in the demo. You will see a pre-imported LCA model from the our openLCA into onlineLCA, and then from there, users can make live adjustments to parameters such as energy inputs, materials, or transportation distance. The system allows you to compare different product variants and scenarios and helps in identifying the environmental hotspots. This type of sensitivity analysis can support design decisions, procurement choices, and sustainability reporting. Finally, the system can generate a configurable reports that highlight the environmental impacts and can be shared internally or with the customers. This workflow helps translate complex LCA models into tools that can be used across organizations. At last, let's see how companies to start with online LCA. The first important thing is that companies needs to establish the core data sources, especially for bill of materials and logistic information. And then organizations have to define the roles of different teams such as LCA specialists, R&D engineers, procurement teams, and so on. And then the LCA experts will build the baseline models in the openLCA, which serve as the foundation for online LCA. Once this baseline model is established, companies can scale the system across multiple product variants. And then at last, an enterprise online setup is implemented, including licensing and hosting infrastructure at the company level. This approach allows LCA to move from an isolated study towards integrated sustainability decision making within the organization. So, to summarize this section, online LCA provides a way to bring enterprise scale LCA workflows into organization, dealing with the product's complexity, sustainable supply chain volatility, and growing export compliance requirements. For Indian companies that a part of global supply chain, this tool will be an important one. If you would like to explore more about this tool, you can reach out to us. Thank you. I'll ask Kiara to help Frederick to take the practical demo.
Yes, indeed. So now we can proceed with the practical showcase of online LCA, and actually I will leave the floor to Friedrich.
Okay, can you hear me? Well,
Yes.
yes? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Okay, I will share my screen. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. From my side, can you see my screen by now?
Yes, we do.
Okay, there's always a bit of delay. Okay, so I will just give you a little run through online LCA, and I think most of the context have been explained and put very well by Chiara and Mohan already. So we're looking at online LCA as a tool that is based on openLCA, right? So this is a tool that it needs an openLCA model that has been created before, and openLCA is of course a expert software for LCA practitioners. So you will need the modeling to be done by someone who knows openLCA and who knows LCA in general. Then, as a workflow that has already been, I believe, also explained by Chiara, is that then this openLCA model is uploaded into onlineLCA, and what you see now is the user interface for the users that will only use onlineLCA, which are more non-LCA experts, right? You do not need a lot of LCA expertise to operate online LCA, and I think as you will see, it's quite intuitive. It's not too complicated, and it allows different roles and companies, or also amongst different companies actually, to perform LCA calculations in a quite simple and intuitive way. No long study programs, not a lot of experience in the LCA world required. Okay, so I'm logged in right now. We do have, of course, login functionality, also two-factor authentication, so it's quite secure. And you will start with this screen. So basically what we have here is setups. Setup is basically a product system as defined in openLCA, plus a set of parameters, plus a certain method that we can use for calculation. As you may know, there are many different methods available in the LCA world, such as the EPD method, such as the environmental footprint method, such as the product carbon footprint method. And they also have like different instantiations and different countries and continents, for example, EPDs are calculated differently in Europe as compared to North America. So this is all supported. What you see here is a basic demo case. We have a couple of product systems for demonstration here. We have one for PV farms for apple juice consumption. So that as a context. So you'll start with this screen and you see the name of the setup. So it's basically the calculation that the online LCA user is doing. And you can edit this name. You can give it whatever name you want it to be. So for example, if you're a company that manufactures filters, and you want to do different calculations on different filters, you can, like, for example, put the dimensions, you could put the serial numbers for these different kinds of filters to calculate and to compare. So here we will see the name, we'll see the person that created it, the owner, and we also see when it is created. And so if I want to edit or adapt my calculation right now, I can just click on it. Of course, I can also create a new one, right? I can click on this one that I've just done here, and we can here edit the name. We can select an allocation method. Here we can select different impact methods. So I've selected, and you can see here in the dropdown, there's a lot of different methods available. openLCA and onlineLCA support all LCA methods that I know of that are out there. And it's also possible to create new ones if you want something special. So just select your method, and this one, of course, then calculate different indicators for you. We can add a regionalized calculation, include cost calculation, and you can see down here we have parameters, right? So what you can do in openLCA is you can put parameters in your model, and those are kind of the parameters that you want the online LCA users to be able to change, right? So I could put, for example, electricity consumption here, or if I go with my filter example, I could put dimensions here, and in this particular case, with the example is a PV farm in Morocco. We have different raw materials that are put in here that I can put in, that I can change, right? And yeah, basically lots of different parameters that I can change here. And if I want to run the calculation, I press calculate, and now I go quite quickly to the results, right? These are the indicators that are now calculated according to the EN 15804A2 method. So this is the EPD method for Europe. Also actually used in Australia and New Zealand and many other countries, but not in North America. Americans do something different here. So you can see the total value, of course, very interesting. Of course, always the kilograms of CO2 equivalent, as in the climate change potential here. As the most important indicators. We can see a couple of different diagrams that can be analyzed, right? So you can see here, for example, for an indicator that I select here, for example, eutrophication potential on Earth, terrestrial, the most important 7 categories that are responsible for this indicator, right? So this is for analysis purpose already. Very popular for analysis is also the contribution tree, which we have in openLCA and in onlineLCA. So for example, if I really want to look into the climate change potential, I can see here, okay, my whole farm as 806 times 10 to the power of 8 of kilograms CO2 equivalents as a total result. But now maybe as a company, I also want to know why. Where is it coming from? And then I can just dig deeper here and see, okay, 59% is coming from the PV module manufacturing process here. I can dig deeper, see like, okay, it's mostly coming from the cell production. It's quite characteristic for PV that the cell production is responsible for a lot of the emissions, and then I can see like 50% of the total is always the total comes from the wafer production here, etc., etc. I can really dig deep into the model and really see where everything is coming from. Okay, well, so the sunburst diagram. This is also usually quite nice for like management because it's like a nice visualization. You can go from inside out and see like, okay, where are my emissions coming from, right? So where's this big part of the pie coming from? Is coming from the PV module manufacturing. Then I can go from this like outside and I see, okay, nearly all of that is coming from the photovoltaic cell production. And then a big chunk of it is coming from the wafer production, right? And this way I can like see very quickly, you know, where are my emissions coming from. And then I can go into these respective processes and optimize them if that's what you want to do, right? We want to optimize at the end of the day, and that's very nice for that. We have a couple of other functions here. Analysis by impact category. We have the model graph, which is basically we can see how our modeling was done in openLCA to also see where, in particular, maybe our data sets are coming from. So that's often something that you might want to double check. You know, if you see, okay, this process is very, very intensive. All emissions are coming from there. You might want to like, you know, dive into this and see where these data sets are coming from, which ones are used. Sankey diagrams also quite interesting for analysis, but this usually takes a bit of time to load. And it's basically the same information that we see here. We can adapt it in size, and we can kind of see, okay, like nicely, like where are the emissions coming from? How do they float through our system? You know, and we can like see, yeah, basically where they're coming from all the way to the end, right? So, for example, here you could see, of course, a lot of emissions are coming from electricity production, high voltage, which is often the case. All relates back to energy in the end. Okay, so this is like, you know, just like the basic analysis functions. Now, of course, I can go back and I can alternate my my parameters, right? I can go back to my example. I can, you know, for example, I could go down here and change. I'm looking for something that would have a large impact. So, for example, here the number of solar modules, and I could like change this, and then we would have different results. And now it would probably calculate a little bit longer. And we see, yeah, you may have not memorized the results, but they changed. And we can see a change of two different product systems if we use the compare function, okay? So what we can do here is we can compare two calculations, two setups, right? So I can go into here. I select my product system. So for example, right, I want to compare this PV farm, and I have this sort of standard parameters in here of my product system. I want to compare it. Let's compare it to the same product system so we don't compare apple and pears. And now we change them a little bit. Okay, let's go back to some parameters that will make a change. So for example, here the number of solar modules, let's change that. Well, let's change it quite significantly. So we see a different, maybe not quite so big. Okay, let's see how this works out. And we choose our method that we want for calculation. And then I'm going to save it and compare. And it will take a little bit of time for calculation. And now we're getting zeros here. So something must have gone wrong. We go back and try again. See, okay. Morocco. go to the Morocco one and see, maybe use a different method. Change this a little bit and compare. Okay. I don't know what went wrong in the first place, but now we can compare, right? And we see that we have the different impact categories here. We see the total difference, of course, very interesting. Where are, what are the different results here that we see? But we can also visualize it, right? So we can see this comparison for all of the different indicators. And we can see here, for example, that if we hover over it, there's a significant difference. Option 2 has much more impacts as compared to option 1. And we see this here in percentage. And of course, if you want the total number, we see it here, right? So this is the compare function. Maybe one thing that I forgot earlier. So if we just calculate here, and we want, I'm sorry, just go back. Okay, go back to the calculation, right? Of our first example that we calculated, and we want to export. We also have report functionalities here. So we have a regular template, extended template, and complete template. This is also editable, right? If, like in many cases, you want companies want specialized templates, or for example, if you calculate EPDs, the program operators want certain templates, the verifiers will want certain templates, and we can adapt them. But these are the standard ones that we usually use, and you can just like save them on your computer and open them. And this is basically the regular one where we just have product system, impact method, and then the results. And maybe as an example, I'll show you the complete one, where we have more information in. Yeah, we have the product description here, reference process, and then results, and also the parameter table that we've edited here. Okay. Maybe as a last thing to show you, I'll show you the admin panel, because this is, first of all, it's something that we do not have in openLCA. openLCA is an open source desktop software, so you don't have like a login, you don't need user management. But here we have, because the solution for companies essentially. And we can do this quite nicely. We can assign different roles, different users, right? So we can just create, can form an admin at your company, and this person can add users by themselves. Very easy. You just fill in the email address, and then they can be added. And then they can be added to teams as well, right? So with these teams, we can manage their rights. So we basically have a right management system here. We can allow them to access certain product systems. For example, we say like one division is only allowed to access the filters, another division is only allowed to access carpets or something like this, right? Sometimes you don't want one division to see what the other division is calculating and doing. So this is something we can do via the admin panel and via the teams. Yeah, we can basically allow these different teams the different models, the different product systems that we see, that they can see, and also the impact methods that they are allowed to use. Yes, basically that's it. Maybe what I wanted to show you. Don't know, Chiara, do you have anything to add? Anything I forgot, maybe?
I think that was pretty complete. Maybe I would just add that, as you can see on the top right, as of now, we have the tool in English and in German. But of course, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are open to tailoring the tool, also meaning that if you need it in another language, we can do that as well. It is also available in different themes. For example, I know many people prefer the dark themes. That's also there to use. But yeah, I think that was pretty complete. So yeah, so far nothing more pops up in my mind. Yeah.
Okay. Then I don't know, I'll leave it to you to go on with the webinar.
Yeah. So maybe super quickly, I don't know if we wanted to talk about the testimonials. I don't know if we have maybe time to quickly show also the engine tool, Friedrich.
Sure. Do you want to say something about the projects first, or that we have, or should I just jump into the engine project right away?
Let's go. Yeah, it's just really a couple words. Of course, we already had the chance to implement some projects with onlineLCA. Some are already closed, some are ongoing. And among them, there are also some European funded projects. Now, Friedrich will showcase the tool for engine, the engine project. And onlineLCA will also be used for CitoLoop, which is another European funded project. So yeah, we already have, of course, some experience of projects implemented with our tool. And actually something maybe I wanted to add. So now we saw this version of onlineLCA. It is a live tool, meaning we are always working to improve it, to make it better and better. We always try to come up with new functionalities. So it was just to say that indeed now this is the version we are offering, but of course we are working to develop it even further in the future. And okay, now I'll leave the floor to Friedrich again.
Yeah, let me try to share the screen again. Yeah, so Engine was a Horizon Europe project, so funded by the European Union. We used onlineLCA to do this project, and that's why we can show it. You know, like we cannot show our private industrial projects here because the company don't want that, but this one we can show because it was a publicly funded project. And the use case here was manufacturing of engine parts for like ship engines. And we had different companies here involved, basically 3, which would cover the whole supply chain of the whole engine. So a lot of the things are very similar. It's an earlier version of onlineLCA. So what I showed you earlier is a newest build. This is a bit older because this project was finished in May 2025. But basically what you see here is the example of the manufacturing of a rod. It's an engine part. And what we can do here is we can calculate it. And we use data from 3 different companies in this project. You see here the results that this manufacturing of this rod produce. And I will maybe, we have shown all of the functionalities, just maybe show you, it's quite interesting to see the sunburst diagram here to see how we can use it. Now we see that the emissions of climate change are about half of it comes from, and we can see this very nicely, like about half of it comes from steel making. And this was from the company ABS in Italy, right? So half of these emissions are coming from making the steel for this product. It's an old steel product. If we want to know, okay, where are these emissions coming from in steel making, we can go a little bit further. Say like, okay, it's coming from the raw materials. Some of it is also coming from scrap melting. and some of it from other processes in the steelmaking manufacturing process. And then if we go into raw materials, we see the different raw materials, right, that the emissions are coming from. Okay. Another significant part comes from forging. Okay, so this is the second company in the supply chain, is like forging company, right? So here, most of the emissions are coming from pressing, from closed die forging. It's a very energy intensive process. And here we can see that most of the emissions are coming from the energy mix, which is a specialized energy mix, not coming from the grid in this particular case. And then only very small portion is coming from the finishing, the machining at Wärtsilä, which is one of the main partners in the project, which is a Finnish manufacturer of these parts and manufacturer of ship engines and also manufacturer of ships. So in this project, we were able to cover all of the supply chain, and this is very nice to also analyze the manufacturing of a product like that through all of the supply chain. Yeah, and I think everyone was quite happy at the end, all the companies and also the European Commission, to have this tool to use for further analysis of this particular industry. That's maybe all I want to say about the engine project at this time.
Thank you so much, Friedrich. Yeah, so we also have enough time for the Q&A because I see some questions are coming in. Maybe before jumping indeed to the questions, we leave here our contacts. So if you're interested, you would like to know more, to have a private conversation about this tool, this is our email, so onlineLCA@greendelta.com. And before ending the presentation, we just wanted to share, maybe some of you already know, but we are having a conference in April. So if you're interested in participating, tickets are still available. And the 21st, we are also having some trainings. So again, if you're interested, this is the website. Okay, now let's jump to the questions, so we have enough time for that. First of all, I saw some people already asked for the recording. This will be made available in our YouTube page. We will probably publish it in the afternoon today, like our afternoon, let's say. So yeah, you can also follow us on LinkedIn if you want to be sure not to miss the post, indeed, to let you know about the upload of the recording in YouTube. Okay, now let's see the other questions. So what are the allocation method available? So we have the physical allocation, economic allocation, casual allocation, or you can choose to use the default allocation that was set in openLCA, or no allocation, of course. So these are basically all the options that you have. Of course, I start answering them, Friedrich or Moan, if you have other to add, just jump in. Okay, someone asks, I wanted to ask what happens when the LCA model that I need for my assessment is not available in the platform. Alternatively, what happens if the parameters that I want to control are not available? So I think the answer here is that there should be like a dialogue between you and the LCA expert creating the model in openLCA. So if you want a certain model to be available in onlineLCA and certain parameters to be available in onlineLCA so that you can modify them, you should explain it, of course, to the LCA expert that is going to create the model in openLCA, so that then this model is made available in onlineLCA, so that you can indeed work with it and you can control the parameters and inspect the results when you change such parameters. I hope this answered the question. Okay. Okay, so from the Tunnel Waste Horizon 2020 project, we might be interested in evaluating how onlineLCA can be integrated with the project platform we are developing. This platform collects the LCI and matches it with the corresponding data sets. Does onlineLCA count on an API that would allow us to connect with the TonoWaste platform so that onlineLCA takes the LCI, calculates the impacts, and returns those results back to the TonoWaste platform? Thank you. So this is a project we could work on, of course. I know that I think that our colleague worked on a similar project anyway. Is something that maybe is not already built in onlineLCA, but as I mentioned at the beginning, it is flexible, so we could also meet this need. Overall, I think it's super feasible. I really welcome you maybe to contact us via the email that I showed before. Actually, maybe it's better if I leave it in the presentation. So we can further discuss this, but overall, I think it's feasible. This could be done, yeah.
Maybe to add there's an API available.
Yeah.
Maybe it's also interesting for others. So there's a well-documented API available for onlineLCA as well as openLCA. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So while no other questions come in, maybe I answer something that many people usually ask. Sometimes people ask what database is used for calculations, but this depends on the database that you want to use. So for example, if a model is created by the LCA expert in openLCA using EcoInvent, then it means you're using EcoInvent. If you want to use AgriFootprint and the model is created with AgriFootprint, then that is a database. So it's up to you. There is not a fixed database that is used within the tool. Just to be clear on this point as well. Let's see if other questions come in. In the meanwhile, we have a thank you. Thank you for participating. Okay, so I see no more questions are coming. But indeed, you have our contacts. So in case you also want to have a chat later, we are available, of course. Again, this video will be available on YouTube, so you can also watch it later. And if something else comes up, you know how to reach us. Okay, perfect. Then I would like to thank a lot Mohan and Friedrich for participating and for the presentation. I hope you found it useful and you understood something more about onlineLCA. So thank you again, everyone, and have a nice rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gia.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.